Okay, we have 2 lessons left for this unit. This today is going to be learning to solve whole number multiplication equations. Again, same goal as yesterday, except we changed multiplication. Write this down before moving on. Here is your warm-up today. I want to see how well you can divide 6 division problems. Show me your answers. Come back when you're done. And here are the correct answers to your 6 warm-ups. Hopefully you did well. Now, why would I have you do division problems if our goal is on multiplication? By now, you should recognize that we're doing inverse operation. So although we're focusing on multiplication, we really need you to divide, and that's why we had this practice. All right, let's get into our lesson. We're going to start with a little scenario here. We're looking at 9 banded armadillos. They're always born in groups of 4. And there's the cute little guys or girls, can't really tell. If you count 32 babies, what is the number of mother armadillos? Well, we have to figure out if there's 4 babies per mom, we got to be able to figure this out. So basically, we're putting together groups of 4 and letting M represent the mothers of armadillos. So really, you have to do 4 times whatever the mother is, which equals 32. Now, a lot of you probably already recognize from the problem, actually, if I divide, I can get the answer. That is correct. So with 4 times M equaling 32, the way to figure out the inverse of multiplying is to divide. So you divide the whole coefficient and variable by 4, and now all you're left with is just the variable of M. 4 goes into 32 8 times. That's what we're going to work on today. Let's look at some practice problems that we can do together. So here's the first one I'd like you to write down, and it looks very similar to the other ones because I tried to keep it consistent. So with this example, you're looking at 5 times P equaling 75, or 5P equals 75. So remember, the inverse operation of multiplying is dividing. So if we have to get P all alone, we have to divide the 5 away from the 5. Now what is 5 divided by 5? That's 1, right? So how many P's do you have? 1P. That's how you know it's right. But remember, the 5 isn't just disappearing. You have to put it on the other side. You have to make sure that it's equal. So 75 divided by 5 is 15. So in this scenario, P equals 15. And again, to check, we just plug and chug. So plug 15 back in for P. 5 times 15 is 75. Make sure you have this example down in your notes. You don't need all the blue stuff, just the example on the left. Here's another one for us to look at. So we have 16 equaling 8R. We know we have to divide, since we're looking at the inverse of multiplying. But what is it that R is being multiplied by? You should see that R is being multiplied by 8. So all we have to do now is divide then, since it's the inverse of 8 to both sides. So let's change that question mark to an 8. Now these 8's cancel each other out, and you're just left with R. But how many times does 8 go into 16? You should see it goes in twice. And how do we find out if that's right? Plug 2 in for R. 8 times 2 is 16. And that means that both sides of the equation, or equal sign, are correct. So now it's your turn. I have 6 problems up here I want you to try. Make sure you're showing your work so you can see that you're doing the right inverse operation. Again, a lot of you are like, yeah, I get the inverse. I don't need to see it again. But you do, because if you make sure that you're showing your work properly on these simple problems, when it gets to the more difficult stuff, you're not going to have any issues at all. And you'll know exactly how to take good notes and show your work cleanly so that you can do well. Enough rambling on for me. Time for you to get to work. So hopefully these are the same answers you had. You can see I even showed my work. I divided all the numbers by the coefficient next to the variable, and then I brought that same coefficient to the other side, and then that left all our variables alone, x, w, a, b, c, and n, and then I just had to divide the other side. So 7 goes into 21 3 times for number 1. Number 2, 3 goes into 27 9 times. Number 3, 10 goes into 90, or 1 goes into 9 9 times. Number 4, 7 goes into 56 8 times. 5, 3 goes into 33 11 times. And 6, 2 goes into 12 6 times. All right, let's talk word problems a little bit because you are going to see word problems here. And again, like our original word problem we looked at with the armadillos, you're probably going to recognize that we have to divide. But I do want us to write an equation that shows what we have to do to balance. It's going to be written in multiplication form. So it says the area of a rectangle is 56 inches. Its length is 8. What's its width? Well, remember, area equals length times width. Okay? So in this example, we've been given 56 as the area. We've been given 8 as the length, but what we don't know is W. So here's our equation. So we have to get W alone. So what do we have to do? We have to do the inverse of multiplying, which is dividing, and we got to do it to both sides. To get W alone, that means we have to divide 8. And what you do to one side, you do to the other. So once we do that, we can see that we've canceled out the 8's here, and we're just left with W, which stands for width. And 8 times what gives you 56? And that would be 7. Okay, so what's the width? W equals 7, or width equals 7 inches. So again, you probably looked at it and said, well, I can just divide 8 into 56. And that is correct, but this is why this is showing you how it should be written out properly. Make sure you have this written down before moving on so you have a good example for practice 2. Now it's your turn. You're looking at a deck here. The area of the deck is 675 square feet. We can see what the width is. We need to find the length. So again, to help you, area equals length times width. Plug the numbers you do have in there and chug out a variable, or chug out an answer, and come back when you're done. And here's the answer you should have gotten. Length being 45 feet. So you can see I used the formula A equals L times W. I plugged 675 in for the area, and I plugged in 15 for the length, or for the width. Then we had to solve for L. So to solve this, I saw we had to divide the area by what we have for the width, and that gave me the length of 45. Hopefully it gave you the same answer as well. All right, here's your 2-box of thought questions. The first one, tell what number you would use to divide both sides of the equation. What would you divide both sides by if you had 15 times x equals 60? And the second one, tell whether the solution of 10 times c equals 90 will be less than 90 or greater than 90. Tell me how you know. This is the third time you've seen this problem because we've used the same kind of question for all 3, adding, subtracting, and multiplying. And here's your quiz. You got 5 problems. Take your time, show your work, and go ahead and solve for the correct answer of all these. That's it for today. We'll see you next time.